Let me say this as clearly as possible right up front. If you're planning to apply to law school this fall or later, the rules you're planning around may already be obsolete. And the reason has nothing to do with the US news rankings, changes to the LSAT format, or the various admissions myths floating around. And it has everything to do with the federal government and the Trump administration and two policy changes that almost no applicants are connecting yet. And here is the short version. One change quietly cuts off unlimited federal funding for law school, and the other weakens the legitimacy filter that used to protect students from bad outcomes. And today, they're creating a system where you could get into law school, enroll, and still ruin your financial future, even if you did everything right. And this video is not meant to be political commentary. I don't care if you like Trump or if you hate Trump or if you are indifferent to Trump. But what you do need to understand is how money and law school accreditation are changing at the same time and why that combination is uniquely dangerous for law school applicants. Now, let's start with the change that directly affects your ability to pay for law school. Beginning in July 1st of this year, federal Grad PLUS loans are eliminated for new borrowers. And these are the loans that quietly made modern law school pricing possible. For decades, law schools operated on one invisible assumption. As long as students could borrow the full cost of attendance, law schools did not need to constrain their tuition. So if tuition plus living expenses came out to $80,000 a year, $90,000 a year, or even $100,000 per year, the federal government would lend it to you automatically, but now that assumption is gone. Starting in July 1st of this year, Grad PLUS loans disappear for new borrowers, federal borrowing caps apply to law students, and you're limited to roughly $50,000 per year in federal loans, a $200,000 lifetime loan cap for professional degrees, and this is not a small policy tweak. This is the financial foundation of law school being pulled out from under the system. Now let's do the math that most applicants have frankly just never had to do before. Take a very normal law school cost of attendance like $85,000 per year. Under the old system, federal loans covered nearly all of it. But under the new system, the loans are capped at $50,000, which leaves a $35,000 gap every single year. Now, over the course of 3 years, that's more than $100,000 you've got to fund in some other way. Could be through scholarships, your savings, family help, or private loans. Federal loans used to fill that gap, but they don't anymore. Now, there's a critical timing issue most people are missing. If you already borrowed federal loans for law school before July 1st, you might fall under the legacy rules. But if you start law school in fall of 2026 or later without prior borrowing, you are fully subject to the new caps, and Grad PLUS loans are not available, and the federal loans will not stretch to cover tuition gaps. And this creates a hard dividing line between cohorts. The students applying now are the first ones forced to live entirely inside the new reality, with no safety net and no assumption of unlimited financing. Now let's layer in the second change happening at the exact same time. The states of Florida and Texas have moved to weaken or bypass the American Bar Association's control over law school accreditation, because the American Bar Association has become a political target, especially over DEI requirements and institutional mandates. The argument from these states is that they don't want a national accreditor enforcing ideological standards on who can train lawyers. That's the politics of it. But here's the part that matters for you regardless of politics. Uncertainty around law school accreditation increases the risk at the exact moment that financing is becoming harder. And the risk is what students, employers, and lenders all hate. When a lot of people hear that the states are breaking from the American Bar Association, they think that's great, you have more options, law school is going to get cheaper, you're going to have easier paths to becoming an attorney. But that's not what this is. Right now, these changes create permission to start and accredit law schools without the supporting infrastructure. Employers still care about the pedigree of being ABA approved, and judges still care about traditional credentials. And one reason for accreditation is to enforce bar passage rates and employment outcomes. There is a consumer protection role that ABA accreditation currently plays, and it's unclear what these new pathways will do to protect law school students. What's changing is that students are being invited to enroll in less proven pathways without the federal loan backstop that used to cushion bad decisions. So that's ultimately transferring risk from the institutions onto the students. And if only one of these things happened, either the Grad PLUS loans being eliminated or the accreditation changing, the system could probably absorb one of the changes. But when you have both of them happening simultaneously, that starts to look more like a structural reset. Now, the unlimited federal money used to mask bad pricing decisions, and unquestioned accreditation used to mask bad outcomes. But both of those masks are slipping at the same time. So schools have to answer, can we justify this price without unlimited federal loans? Can we fill the seats if students can't borrow freely? And you as the applicant have to think to yourself, can you afford this under the loan caps? Is law school worth the downside risk if it's unaccredited by the ABA? And what happens if employment outcomes don't match the glossy marketing brochures? So going forward, you want to look at law schools as being in one of three buckets. The first bucket are the elite schools, like the T14 or the T20. Those schools have stronger outcome, they've got massive endowments, and they are insulated from the loan caps. Then secondly, you have solid regional schools, which are going to compete harder on scholarships and pricing. But the third bucket, that's the questionable one. Those schools have high tuition, but possibly pretty weak outcomes, and they don't have big endowments. And so those schools are the most exposed. Many won't adapt in time. And this is not speculation, it's just basic economics. Now, some people hear about the loan caps and they think that private loans are going to replace the federal loans. But private loans have higher interest, they're based on your credit, and they offer fewer protections. And during an economic downturn, they could disappear entirely. So they are not a backup plan. Now, when systems get unstable, institutions cling to stable signals. They don't abandon them. So scholarships are going to follow your LSAT medians. Rankings still reward selectivity based on the numbers, your LSAT score and your GPA. And employers are still going to infer quality based on the prestige of the school and its ranking in US News. And so as law school financing starts to tighten, your LSAT score becomes leverage. A better score won't just help you get into law school, it'll help you survive in this new environment. So given the changes, you want to look at your real 3-year net cost, not the sticker price of the school, but the actual cost of attendance you're going to pay in full, considering living expenses, for example, additional mandatory fees. You also want to think about the opportunity cost of going to law school. Then you also want to look at the outcomes based on bar passage rates, employment, geography, where you're going to apply. And you don't want to rely on private loans due to the interest. And if you are not yet done with the LSAT, you want to potentially retake the LSAT to use it as leverage for scholarship money to have more negotiation power, given that you don't want to have to resort to private loans. And you want to set a hard minimum aid threshold. Basically, you want to be willing to walk away if schools aren't offering you enough money. Because ultimately, I mean, debt doesn't care who's in the federal government. What matters is how you are affected financially. And so the elimination of the Grad PLUS loans and the politicization of accreditation is going to reshape law school at the same time. And that combination is rather unforgiving for you as the law school applicant. Now, there are ways, of course, for you to maximize your outcomes, and it comes down to getting the highest LSAT score possible for the best scholarship offers. And